Four, three, two, one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is Mild's Culture Plate for Saturday, the 5th of November, 2022. It's election week, folks, here in the United States. We are about to have a midterm election, and usually when I kick off my show, one of the first things I try to do is give someone a toast and drink a little bit of whiskey. That's not going to happen today. I am drinking good old H2O water because I'm going to be drinking a lot of whiskey this evening, and I'm not trying to get a pregame going before I've got to drive across town. However, we've got a little bit of an interesting show, but I'm not going to go too deep on any topic, so it may wind up being a short one today. We've got some content. I'm finally going to give you the review of the Prey movie that I promised you 3 frickin' months ago. I've been meaning to do that the last couple of shows because I have finally watched it, but the last couple of shows have just been jam-packed with some amazing topics, and I have given some full-on good rants. But I want to start out by celebrating the holiday the way it was meant to be celebrated. And I'm probably going to get copyright claimed for this, but it is what it is. Warner Brothers Pictures going to be playing a little bit of their intellectual property here to celebrate the holiday for what it is meant to be. So let's do that now.
Tell me, do you know what day it is, Evie?
November the 4th.
Not anymore. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason, and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. First, the overture. Yes, the strings. Listen carefully, can you hear it? Now the brass.
I can hear it. Look outside, Mummy. They're playing music.
Oh no, it's music. What could it mean?
Wait, here comes the crescendo.
Oh no. Yeah. There it goes.
Is it not?
Isn't it a beautiful sight, people? Okay, so, there we go. Nope, go away, YouTube. All right. So, if you're not familiar, that clip was from the movie V for Vendetta. That little speech was in reference to the gunpowder plot of Guy Fawks, because on this day in British history, Guy Fawkes led a plot to bring down Parliament by planting gunpowder and explosives underneath the building. And, so we want to definitely give a nod to Guy Fawkes Day, because, you can't forget terrorism or something. Some things that I'm not allowed to really talk about on YouTube. So let's move right along from celebrating the 5th of November. Like I said, it's election week here in the United States, and I'm not going to get real heavy into election coverage. And you may have noticed I haven't talked real heavily about this election here on my channel because, quite frankly, It's not that kind of channel. We're here to have fun. We're here to talk politically, but we're here to have fun. I'm not here to analyze maps and races and break down polling percentages and talk about, what political party might control the different houses of Congress and or which political parties may win the gubernatorial races. For the most part, the elections here in my state and district, I have a couple of incumbents who my congresswoman and governor woman are definitely not happy with the job that they have done, but it seems like a lot of people have kind of forgotten some of the lessons we learned from COVID, and it seems like it's going to be pretty hard to not have the incumbents win. I mean, it looks like a foregone conclusion. So really, the only race I'm even somewhat interested in is the Arizona governor race, and that's only because I think if Kari Lake wins, the way she will talk to the media is just fucking hilarious. From a purely comedic standpoint, I don't give no shits about Republican, Democrat. I mean, there are some ways in which I give shits about Republican, but I'm not into parties. I'm into individuals. And I think in Arizona, Kari Lake being in the fucking news for the next 6 years or whatever it is would be the best fucking thing. I mean, you can't buy that kind of comedy. You can't buy that kind of hilarity that she would just make fucking news anchors lose their damn minds. So, what should I get into first? I think I'll go ahead and give you my review of the movie Prey. Before it came out, I saw a lot of people criticizing the decision to make what is essentially a prequel to Predator, to kind of give a story where a predator, and again, minor spoilers. I'm not going to make it heavy on spoilers, but minor spoilers. A story where a predator visited way before Western culture took hold on the world and really explored the idea of primitive cultures facing a predator, in particularly Native Americans. And there was definitely a couple of times where they kind of toyed with the idea. I mean, the whole movie was in English, which kind of takes your immersion out a little bit. There were a few lines where they did speak, I'm assuming, a native dialect, but the idea that they spoke English through the whole thing took me out of the immersion a little bit. I mean, I guess they had to. Otherwise, it's going to be subtitles through the whole movie. But it's like, okay, you're setting it back then, and we're speaking English, and okay, that's fine. You can get over that, and you can be immersed in the movie. As long as the movie is action fucking packed. And let me tell you, folks, the movie was action fucking packed. So, all the people who had criticisms of it, who thought that this was a diversity thing, or preaching about the strength of Native Americans, or some kind of anti-Western culture thing, I think most of those people were pleasantly surprised, and understandably so. They were wrong. This movie kicks ass. And yeah, I realize, I'm reviewing it, 4 months now since it's been released, and a lot of people have forgotten about it, but it took me a while to get back around to it, and for that I apologize. But, you can go watch it at any time. It's out there on, I believe, Hulu. But it's a really good movie. I mean, there's kind of the middle arc of the movie, the where the protagonist really gets an understanding of the conflict she's in, has to do with an attack by a bear, in which it becomes bear versus predator versus the protagonist. And it's such a beautifully interesting scene, because it's the idea that there's something out there more dangerous to a bear, to someone who realizes that, bears and bobcats are the most dangerous things that they face. And seeing the way the reaction happens and the escape, and there's all this just ongoing chase scene. It takes a lot of elements of the first Predator movie, of running through the jungles and using the environment and using nature, and it takes all the campiness of Schwarzenegger out of it. And so what you're left with is a man versus woman versus environment versus a villain. And so you have these three intermingling, and the cinematography's great, the action is great, the writing is pretty good. There are some spots where it's like, there are definitely some scenes in the movie where it's like, oh, you think I'm a girl and I can't do this, and but, and sort of the end of the movie, and again, minor spoilers, the end of the movie kind of rewards her for being a girl but getting the job done. But it is a beautiful movie, and there's loss in the movie, there's tragedy, there's so much to look forward to. So out of 10 stars, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I say go watch Prey. If you haven't seen it yet, borrow your ex-boyfriend's Hulu account and go watch Prey. Because, I know if you're watching me right now, then you're probably a fan of Nick Rekieta, which means, you're either a straight woman or you're gay. So go borrow your ex-boyfriend's Hulu account and go watch Prey. Even if you've already seen it, go watch it again. It's an amazing fucking movie. And so here we are. Now, speaking of Nick Rekieta's Locals Chat, last night Nick Rekieta had Fudbusters on, and eventually brought on Rob of Law and Lumber. And Rob of Law and Lumber had mentioned a court case he was following involving a new documentary on Netflix. And so if you watched Nick Rekieta's show last night, or if you watched Law and Lumber last night, you're familiar with this documentary that I'm getting ready to talk about. The documentary is called Orgasm Incorporated. And it's about a company known as One Touch. And I knew nothing about this. I watched this documentary this morning with a loved one, let's say. And to be honest, this was before I found out Nick Rekieta had covered it. This was before I found out Law and Lumber had covered it. I'm watching it with my loved one. And I was, for the most part, and I'm going to give a little bit of a review of the documentary, and it's going to have some spoilers, but I'm also going to kind of talk about like where the documentary goes wrong. And I'm going to make fun of it a little bit, so stick around. So I'm watching this thing, And I'm telling you, I just don't get it. You know, I actually haven't finished Nick Rekieta's show from last night. I haven't finished watching it, so I don't know if they understand it either. I don't, like, what is this? So the documentary starts out, and we learn that, okay, we quickly learn that someone has come up with this idea of teaching men and women how to make women orgasm. But it's not like a sex therapist kind of thing. So if you've seen other documentaries where they talk to sex therapists, you know, I've seen other things, you know, there are those businesses out there where you can go to a sex therapist, and a sex therapist can explain to you and show you and help you learn more about anatomy and being on the same page and communication and passion and just a connectivity with your partner and all of these things that could lead to better orgasm, stronger orgasms, etc., etc. And so that's the job of a sex therapist, but that's not what this is. And you know, I'm going to be very careful here because they're suing Netflix right now because they think there may be some footage of their employees in various states of undress. And I want to be careful that I don't commit defamation here because I don't want to look further into this. I don't want to dig into this company's history. And I don't want to uncover anything about these people other than other than give my reaction to the documentary. So this isn't a reaction to the business. This isn't a reaction to the people. This is a reaction to the way things are portrayed in the documentary. I want to be very clear about that. Not looking to catch a lawsuit because of my interpretation of something I saw in a fucking movie. These people may or may not be like this in real life. So I'm going to give that disclaimer. So it's very clear up front that these aren't sex therapists, that this is something else. And again, they kind of give the idea that it's a community. We quickly learn that at some point the business becomes a communal living situation in which people are paying upwards of $15,000 a year for a membership. And then eventually they can move up into becoming employees of the company, and then they're responsible for selling the product, the program, to new members. And at first it sounds almost like yoga orgies. It's like they're offering tantric exploration in a group setting, but with a little bit of structuring and maneuvering, but yet there's a community fucking aspect to it. And this is why it's confusing to me, because it's almost like something you'd see on Adult Friend Finder or fucking FetLife or Meetup.com. Like it's like the only reason it's profitable is because they have attractive women in their employment. And so they get the attractive women up on the table, get their legs spread, and they're rubbing one out in front of you. And it's supposed to be instructional and spiritual. You know, it's not supposed to be perverted. It's supposed to be instructional and spiritual. But it's like their clients are socially, I don't want to say socially awkward, but socially somewhat sheltered human beings, men and women, and they're trying to draw them in with this understanding that you can unlock happiness. You can unlock another level of your personality just by understanding what causes an orgasm in a woman. So there's this whole hippy dippy layer, and for me, I'm still trying to understand the business model here. I'm trying to understand what exactly they're selling, other than these people will masturbate in front of you, but don't be horny about it. And yet, so this to me, this is one of my criticisms of the documentary, right? They never really get into the perversion of it all, the horniness of it all. It's almost like the documentary takes them at face value that you want to show us some sort of tantric, yoga, sex, orgasmic way of unlocking true happiness. It's almost like the documentary wants to take them at their word, and that they're not just trying to sell women fapping to horny, desperate fucking men. And so as you watch this documentary, you're hearing mostly from employees of the company, right? These are who's being interviewed as employees of the company, and they're talking about their experiences. And they're talking about how they learned of the company. They're talking about the ways in which they would organize these orgasmic meditation fucking seminars, and the ways in which they would try sales and connection techniques with their customers. And then so as the documentary gets deeper and deeper, and they talk more and more about the different events they're having, and how they're growing their community and they're growing their sales, and then it starts to sound a little more and more manipulative. But for me, I'm like, okay, but that's every relationship, and that's nearly every business relationship too. I mean, granted, if you're running a lawn service, for example, you're not masturbating in front of your employees, right? But this is a whole other thing, you know? And so as the relationships grow, and as the business grows, and as their clientele grow, like the levels of manipulation layer on top of each other. At least this is what I'm understanding of this documentary. But I watched the whole thing, and I still, to this minute, do not really understand what they were selling or what their business model actually was, other than let's have orgies with nerds who have money. And so at one point in time, they got this, so in the documentary, they have this butch woman. And so at the beginning, she looks more butch. And then as the story progresses, I guess they interviewed her 3 or 4 times. And as the story progresses, her hair gets longer. She seems a lot more feminine. And then at the end, she's like, well, I felt like I was a queer woman, but I was kind of forced to be, which is kind of weird because I'm assuming all these interviews happened after she left the company, but then she talks about how she went back to the company. I don't know. Again, this is another criticism I have of the documentary. The documentary isn't exactly clear on the timelines of these things, but eventually there are some, you know, kind of there's a climax in the story, right, where this lady starts talking about her sister and how her sister was raped. And so they give the protagonist, the founder of the company, or antagonist, excuse me. So throughout the whole thing, they give you an antagonist, the founder of this organization. And so they're telling you how nice she was and how friendly she was. And then she gets a little more evil as the story goes along, and more manipulative and more concerned with money than people, and kind of making it an attention-grabbing thing. And so it's like they're driving you to hate this one woman, which is easy for me to do because, you know, I mean, she founded an organization that's all about giving a shit about women's orgasms, and we all know that's pointless. Anyway, so by the time you get to the end, you hear this woman talking about the story about what happened to her sister. And essentially, her sister was encouraged, allegedly encouraged to endure a gang rape. And as the story goes, as what's being told on there, is that, and there were some clips of this person, this antagonist woman, the founder woman, giving speeches about her own trauma and how you should welcome trauma because it allows you to process it and become stronger. And that's essentially was the advice that was given to this woman, that she should endure a gang raping because then she would be stronger. and so it's this weird transformation. And then they really get into, oh, okay, you know, everything we told you the first hour of the documentary, well, now we're going to tell you, well, it transformed. And they started doing occult ceremonies. And all of a sudden, this founder woman starts talking about all these different religious figures and adopting several different religions, individual practices regarding sex, meditation, and spirituality and finding purpose. And she's giving all these quotes from all these different religions about herself. And so it's like, okay, so then they say it's a cult. And so, you know, the premise is, so you watch the trailer or you see the description of the movie, you're like, okay, well, this is a sex cult. This is a sex cult. And there are even articles written about this company saying, oh, well, it's a sex cult like NXIVM. But if you've watched The Vow or you've heard some of the news reports about NXIVM, there was a whole other level to it. Like they really, I mean, this sounds almost like the same thing, but like they don't really get into the financial aspect of what the hell they were selling and why. I mean, they were selling t-shirts and shit, but again, other than being lonely, perverted dudes, who the hell was signing up for this shit? And I guess at one point in time, they had celebrities involved. They were getting donations of hundreds of thousands of dollars from some of their members. But they really don't get into the cult-like aspect of it or the personal attachment to the group. And so, you know, when I watched The Vow or when I watched some of these other documentaries about cults, you really get an idea and an understanding of what attracts people to those cults, because they really talk about, and they kind of did in this, they talk about the charisma of the people involved, but this is almost the other way around. Like, the leader was charismatic, and there were a couple of people at the top of the ladder who were a little charismatic, but it's almost like they put the pressure on the other women employees to suck more men in. And that, you know, it was kind of implied that you don't get to consent because that's half the thing, is to allow these men to take you like a beast. And they keep using this phrase, their beast. Their beast. Let them unleash their beast on you. Because that's the only way they're able to process their sexuality and get their orgasm and reach that next level. And again, so what starts out as being all about women's orgasm kind of comes full circle, and then it becomes all about men's orgasm. Imagine that. So I think that's the key. I think that's the key to this, is they start out with women's orgasm, and then they realize, well, the real money is in making men come. Because, quite frankly, look at the internet. Look how much money on the internet is spent on making men come. Look how much income women make on the internet from making men come. It's insane. It is insane. And so, yeah, of course this little cult-like fucking hippy-dippy orgasm retreat hippie commune, starts out all about femininity and women, and quickly, in my opinion, transforms into, nah, dude, it's all cool. Just let a dude, violate you. Because that's where the money's at. The money's in, let me give you money and do what the fuck I want. And, they kind of described it in some real disgusting ways. Because when you talk about violating someone in a positive way, it can sound disgusting. It really can. I was laughing. I was laughing through the whole damn thing because, quite frankly, I gotta wonder what as a woman, why would you sign up for this? I mean, I understand you're unlocking your orgasms, you're finding some hippy dippy centered peaceful place, and you're opening yourself to growth, but obviously on day motherfucking one, you've got your legs spread. Call me old fashioned, but you got orgies, you got other sexual, but for some reason, this is a place where I feel safe enough to just let a bunch of random strange men gaze into my vagina. I feel safe enough to just touch my pleasure spots in front of strange men for no money. No, in fact, I'm paying money to be a part of it in the beginning. And so then it becomes a multi-level marketing kind of thing, kind of a pyramid kind of thing. And then eventually they realize, oh, wait, we've got 10 times more men than we do women. And they try to negate that in certain ways, but eventually it's like, well, they're paying. They got to get something out of what they're paying for. We provide a service. This is our service. You have to provide it. And so then it becomes creepy. It's fucked up. So anyway, this is the way this documentary has explained all this to me. And like I said, for the life of me, I don't get the bottom line. I don't. But maybe that's the intent. Maybe nobody was supposed to get it to begin with. Because to me, I don't get this whole spiritual side of it. I don't get how that erases the horny, predatory nature of sex. But it's like nobody in this documentary really mentioned that until the end, till they started talking about the real problems with it. So, it's like, it's what you get for caring about women's orgasms. I mean, I'm being genuinely serious. And look, I had an argument with somebody in a chat room, and again, not to get too deeply on the fact that I spend so much time arguing with people in chat rooms. But, I had somebody talk about, well, making sure a woman comes is my favorite part of sex. And I had to disagree. On a spiritual, primitive level, I fully agree. There is nothing sexier than hearing a woman scream, watching her body lock up and stiffen up and then release into an ecstasy. But as a masculine man, right? That's important. Don't get me wrong. That is extremely important. But when you say that's your favorite, that's telling me that you're not experiencing the highest levels of pleasure yourself. And so what I advocate for, and one of the things I've always, and let me be clear, I'm not going to get too deeply into my own sexual experiences, but the idea of the simultaneous climax. That's one of the better experiences you could have. If you know that your lady is being satisfied at the same moment you're being satisfied, that's way better than you sitting there feeling nothing but a mechanical study. You know, you're performing a technique, and it's not about pleasure. You're being a voyeur. You're being a student. You're regurgitating what you've learned. There's pleasure that can be derived from that, and again, you know, the there's one thing I do completely agree with these sexual freedom hippy dippy types. You know, in the polyamory communities, they have this term they call compersion, which is the pleasure off of someone else's pleasure. And you know, they use it to justify things like cuckoldry and stuff, but no, there's a very real emotion of being happy, of someone else's happiness. It doesn't always have to be sexual pleasure. It's just you find joy in knowing that other people are finding joy, right? That's it at its baseline. And again, it doesn't always have to be cuckoldry, but I believe in that. I believe that there's something to that. And so if you're somebody telling me, well, you know, the best part of sex is knowing she gets off. Sometimes, if you feel that way, then maybe the best part of sex is knowing she's getting off on you getting off and you're getting off on she. And so you're having that simultaneous connection, that spark, that passion. You're feeling each other's blood flow. You're feeling each other's heart race. And you're hearing each other's breath. And then you climax at the same time. So it doesn't always have to be about her. It doesn't always have to be about her. And this is what pisses me off about 2022, is we have so many men across this country that just give up on focusing on themselves because they don't think the woman gives a shit about them coming. Fair enough. Most women don't give a shit whether you come or not. But there are a lot of women out there who find it fucking hot. And you need to find you one of those women. Even if you got to pay some multi-level marketing scheme $15,000 to have some questionably consenting woman give you a rub and tug. Which is why I think prostitution should be legal, because then it wouldn't have to be questionable. You just know she's in it to do it. Anyway, I've gotten way too fucking deep into that, and I'm not necessarily trying to get that deep in my own sex life. So what else did we have? Oh, we had the anti-Semitism. So I haven't really talked about the Kanye West situation in depth. I brushed on it a while back, but I haven't really talked about it in depth. I haven't really given my opinion because, quite frankly, I don't like to get into topics that bring out the cancel culture people, because I'm trying to grow the channel, not get canceled before I even get a lift off. But I'm also honest. And what I see when I see Kanye West is I see a cry for help. Now, whether or not he really needs help or not, I see someone who has been through a lot and doesn't really know what lies around the next bend of the road. And so he's trying to figure out how to both act carefully, but also let the world know that he's in charge of his own vehicle, so to speak. That he's not going to let somebody else take the wheel, take the keys, and drive him where they want him to go. So that's what I see when I see Kanye West and the way he's been behaving on Twitter and in these interviews. Because even in these interviews, they pigeonhole him into saying something he doesn't mean to say, and then he's like, but no. And he'll swerve right back and say, yeah, I apologize, but I don't apologize for your reason. I apologize for my, and then he'll double down. And I gotta respect that. He's being his own man. You could say he's psycho, that he needs a rubber room, that he needs mental stability, that he needs perhaps some medication, and all those things could be true. But on the same token, he's being himself. And when I say himself, I don't necessarily think he's this person. But it's like he's in this eternal battle to be his own man in the face of everyone else telling him that he needs to be like everyone else. And so, in this country, we think conformity is a mental health condition, right? Conformity means a healthy mental state. And 99.9% of the time, that's true. But when we look at Hollywood, when we look at the music industry, when we look at fame, when we look at celebrity culture, when we look at People magazine, that conformity is not healthy. The idea that plastic surgery and award shows and that this is the culture to conform to, that's not healthy. And I think Kanye sees that, and he's trying to figure out any way he can to rebel against conformity to Hollywood norms. And whether that's anti-Semitism, because he has said some pretty spicy things about elite Jewish folks. Whether that's anti-Semitism or whether that's a symptom of another problem within Kanye, I still gotta respect the fact that he's willing to be called crazy more than he's willing to be called a follower. And Kyrie Irving, same thing. And so I saw the clip of Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley on the basketball pregame or whatever it was, giving their 2 cents. And essentially what they were saying is, we don't really want to talk about this, but we feel like we are being thrown in here as representatives of the basketball community and the African American community, that we now, as these representatives of these communities, are being asked to speak on behalf of the Kyrie Irvings and Kanye Wests of the world and denounce that kind of behavior. And it's fucking sad. It's fucking sad. Because, like, no one drug Ben Affleck. Maybe they did. I don't know. But they didn't grab every single famous white actor on TV to denounce, damn it, I'm having a brain fart. The Passion of the Christ guy. Mel Gibson. They didn't bring every single white actor on TV and make them denounce Mel Gibson. They didn't make them jump through hoops in some kind of purity test of, hey, you're our token white. You're our token white movie star community members. You now have to give a speech. You now have to talk in the media on behalf of white actors. A couple people did. A couple people voluntarily threw their 2 cents in, because that's the way fucking actors are, the goddamn narcissists. But for the most part, Mel Gibson was uncancelable. I mean, I'm sure he lost movie roles because of his anti-Semitism. But overall, he was able to transform that into a whole other part of his career, and he made quite a bit of a comeback. And he still makes movies. In fact, I think the rumor is there's going to be another Lethal Weapon movie coming out. So overall, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. And if I was Shaquille O'Neal or Charles Barkley, I would have just said, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. And left it at that. And if they kept pushing, I would have left the set. And then you come out on your own social media and say, hey, I shouldn't have to say I'm not anti-Semitic because you people want to talk about these people and I want to talk about basketball. Do it off the set. Do it off camera. And then put it out on your own social media. So then there's this tweet going around of Kanye West saying, I'm starting to think that anti-Semite is code for the word N-word. And it kind of feels like that to some degree. It kind of feels like these terms they use, incel, racist, anti-Semite, it's just like the South Park episode with the N-word guy episode. It's like, it's just another way to discriminate against people. It's just another way to other people. It's just another way to create purity tests and say, well, you're not allowed to be part of our safe and sound and sane community. You're now part of the other thing. You now no longer get to be a whole person in society. We will take that away from you. You now have to be exiled from polite society because we think you used a word that wasn't nice. And I say, well, fuck you then. You're using words that aren't nice too. And when we build alternatives to society, when we have our own black markets where we don't have to jump through hoops, do purity tests, when we have a society where we don't make you get injections and wear masks and jump through every hoop and purity test to walk inside of our businesses. Remember the way you treated us. Because quite frankly, some of the things that are being said might be racist. And I don't defend that. But some of the things that are being said are being called racist just like they do with everyone. You're a racist, you're a phobe, you're a sexist, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe. When all you have is a mildly mainstream opinion. But they're trying to make that opinion not mainstream. They're trying to make it uncouth. But you can't take away the truth of what reality is. And unfortunately, reality is a little bit racist. Reality has stereotypes. Reality has conformity. Reality also has a rejection of conformity, rebellion. And so what you see with your own eyes, you should be able to talk about. Even if it's negative, even if it's a stereotype, even if it hurts a little bit, that's all the more reason to talk about it. Because through comedy, through acceptance, through understanding what the reality really is, and being able to talk honestly about it, then, and only then, can we grow past the harmful aspects of it. And stop being so divided. Because quite frankly, if you see Kanye West as an anti-Semite, as a racist, and not a successful entrepreneur, a successful media mogul, a successful musician, and a fashion icon, the things he built are greater than the sums of his opinion. And if you're willing to respect that, respect what he has built, instead of tearing it down because of a word that came out of his mouth, then maybe you can change his mind about who's really in control of things. Because you can allow him to understand that he's wrong. You have to prove him wrong. And you can't do that when you're trying to shut him up. Which is the problem with the discussions about race and gender in this country. People would rather prove you wrong than people would rather shut you up than prove you wrong. Sorry about that. I think we're long past due for a culture in which we're allowed to be the sum of our merits. Where you're allowed to show what you can do and not what you can say. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up the show now, folks. Go vote on Tuesday. Please. Exercise your rights. Like I said, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I know who I'm going to vote for. Please, take the time. It's now almost 5 o'clock on Saturday. You have between now and Tuesday, assuming you're not a boomer, assuming you haven't already filled out a mail-in ballot and scribbled random crap down, please take the next 2 days, 3 days, and research your candidates. Research your local races. Research who's running for sheriff, who's running for city council. Research those people. Figure out who they are. Take the next 3 days and just take 10 minutes and look into that, please. Be an informed voter. Know what your ballot says. because you can't trust the D and the R next to their name. You can't trust that because they have a certain letter next to their name that they're going to be conservative or liberal or that they're going to care about the grassroots. You can't trust that. You can't let that be your only guide when you're voting. Please research the candidates in depth from your local toilet district all the way up to your governor and congress people and senators. And if you have constitutional measures, state constitutional measures on your ballot and other ballot initiatives, please figure out the ramifications of those. Because I know in Michigan, the wording of that Prop 3 in Michigan can really open a lot of Pandora's boxes. So read between the lines. And in Missouri, let's get some marijuana going. Anyway, I told you I wasn't going to tell you who to vote for. Now I'm telling you who to vote for. Anyway, on that note, please be an educated voter. Be a knowledgeable voter. And go vote in the election on Tuesday. As for me, you can catch me back here Wednesday night. I might do a little bit of election coverage because there's gonna be a story, right? Coming out of Tuesday night, there's gonna be a headline. You know it, I know it. They're gonna have a headline. Somebody's gonna be the new Nazi. Somebody's gonna be the new Donald Trump. They're gonna demonize something. Or there's going to be shenanigans. Something's going to happen. And Tuesday's not going to be an easy peasy squeezy time. I will catch you Wednesday evening. Come back then. It's been a great show. You can do 5 or 6 things for me. 1, just give me a thumbs up down below if you like this video. Appreciate it. You can come back and chat. In fact, looked like someone said hi to me earlier. Sorry about that. I was in the middle of a rant and didn't notice it, so I just told you hi back. So come, chat with me. You know, we can interact that way. I'm willing to have conversations with y'all. So come back and chat. That's number 2. Number 3 is if you're not here live to chat with me, leave a comment down in the comment section. Tell me what I could do better. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm a dickhead. Tell me how I'm fucking boring. Tell me that I'm a boomer for drinking water instead of whiskey, even though, my God, I'm going to get so drunk tonight. Tell me whatever you want to tell me. Number 4, share this stream off platform. Share it with a friend. Let them know that they can come here and find a drunk old man with long hair ranting about Batman and movies and comic books and politics and documentaries and, you know, the problems with our culture. But most importantly, number 5 and number 6. Down below, there's a subscription button. If you click it, then your subscription feed will populate with all my videos as they come out and the little notification bell. That's number 6. If you click it and you have the YouTube app installed on a smart device, then you might just get an alert when I'm going to go live the next time. You might get a little notification on your smart device that'll say, Miles Culture Plate is starting a live stream. Then you can click it and you can come here and you can listen to me rant at you some more and you can chat with me and all those wonderful things. So it's now the end of the stream and I'll catch you folks on Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. Love you.